Welcome to the show that takes up no more than 5 minutes of your time, but could help you gain massive real estate knowledge. It's 5 Minutes in Real Estate with best-selling author Shane Willis.
Good morning, it's Shane Willis, Pensacola real estate expert, bringing you today's episode. Today we're going to talk about access. There's been a couple of times I have, I noticed I'm out here walking the block this morning, and George, my co-host, isn't here. Must be because it's raining. Oh no, I hear him in the distance. Anyways, access. I've had a couple of buyers I'm working with, and actually I've had a couple of listing appointments. I got a bunch lined up today, or tomorrow, excuse me, and I had a couple yesterday. And one of the things that the sellers were talking about were, well, I don't want to, I want to sell my house, I want to sell my property, Shane, but I don't want to have a lockbox on it. I would rather be here when somebody comes to see the property. And so we had to go into education mode. And it prompted me to kind of come up with today's episode and today's post about the different types of accesses we're going to allow as a seller and what works best. Granting access to the property is right up there with pricing it right. I would absolutely say it's right up there with pricing it right. It's right up there with making sure it looks good. You've got some curb appeal to it. It's right up there with everything else that we talk about when we talk about listing a property. You have to grant access to it. I've seen some listings that said showings only available Monday from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. The rest of the time not available. Okay, you may get a buyer in today's world that will wait if there's some reason for them to wait. But by putting or restricting that access, you have got a much smaller buyer pool. Much smaller. It's just not there. There's no reason for them to wait. Inventory may be lower than what it was 3 or 4 years ago, but it's not so low to where they need to wait Monday between 2 and 4. Unless that's when they happen to be looking at properties anyways. That's why I said the buyer pool is not non-existent. It's not non-existent. It does exist, but it's much smaller. Let's talk about what I recommend. First of all, is putting an electronic lockbox on the door. I recommend 2 things. I want the electronic lockbox on the door, and one of the reasons I want the electronic lockbox on the door is because as soon as somebody comes to see your property, I know about it. They have to use their phone. It enables Bluetooth to unlock this electronic lockbox. That electronic lockbox then sends a signal somewhere in the sky, bounces off some satellite. Thanos snaps his fingers, and I figure it out. I know, hey, Bob Smith from Bob Smith Realty just went into your property. I get that email within about 5 minutes of them walking into the house. And if I happen to be on the app, then I'll get the email, or I'll get the notification in about a minute of them being in the house. So I like the electronic lockbox on the door. One of the fears also about putting a lockbox on the front door is, hey, anybody that has access to it can open that and open my house in the middle of the night or whatever. There's George. Can open the house in the middle of the night. No, wrong. You can't. That's the other thing that I like about the electronic lockboxes versus the combination lockboxes. You put the combination lockbox, that fear does exist. And it is possible. If somebody knows the combination, they can open that door anytime. Whereas an electronic lockbox shuts down. Usually here with daylight savings time, it shuts down from 9 p.m. to 9 a.m. So if I rolled up myself to try and open that lockbox, it's my lockbox. If I rolled up on that myself and tried to open it even at 8 a.m., unless I schedule it to go to 8 a.m. or open at 8 a.m., it won't open. It just can't. So that fear goes away. Not only do I get to find out who's coming in your house, but I also get to find out or get the security of it not being open during a certain time. So I always recommend putting an electronic lockbox on the door. And then I recommend using a company called Showing Time, which is a company that I employ, or I contract with. I shouldn't say employ, that's a different word. I contract with that connects with you. And I say, hey, we advertise in the listing, showing available within about 2 hours notice, but needs to be connected. So then I connect with you, and Showing Time calls you or texts you, however we set it up, and you okay it. Now, that's all right to do at work or at the soccer game or whatever. All you're doing is sending a text going, yeah, sure. Then the agent who has the key to the lockbox can get in. 2 hours notice is one thing. 24, 48, 72 hours notice, which I see a lot. 24 is not as bad. I've seen 48 and 72, and it's starting to become too much time for a buyer who's out and has only got so much time. A lot of them don't, they're just doing it on their off time. So they don't even plan 48 hours in advance. Do you know what you're doing 48 hours from now? I do, but I plan a lot and I'm self-employed. So a lot of times they don't. Most buyers do not know what they're doing 48 hours, so there's no way for them to plan that far in advance. And you start getting 72, 96. Yeah, that's no bueno if you're trying to sell a property. So, best thing I recommend is lockbox on the door. You can, and there are some people that offer to provide a key at the office. Hey, we have a key, we have it here at the office. I have done that before. I have had that as one of my options, but there was a reason. The property had, the property I'm thinking of had mold. It was an inherited property and they had mold, so nobody was living there. But it had bad mold. So I didn't want a lockbox in there because when an agent came and got the key, we put in there saying, hey, you need to come get the key and I need you and your buyer to sign this release from us. That was more of a liability thing because that is an extra step for the buyer and the buyer's agent to swing by your office and get the key. It's okay, that's possible. And if there's a reason behind that, it makes sense, but it's not the most efficient for your buyer you're trying to sell the house. You want to make it more efficient, more comfortable for them. One of the things, open access with a phone call. I've seen people have the buyer's agent and the buyer call the seller directly to find out if now is a good time. Is now a good time to show your property? Not necessarily, no. And if you're in the middle of a meeting, that's a little tough to do. So I would recommend using a third-party company, first of all. You hired an agent. Why in the world would you be taking those phone calls as a seller? That would be somebody else that schedules that up. So anyways, and then, so the five accesses that are available that we put out, I feel like I'm rambling today. I may be I haven't had as much coffee this morning. And I slept in. I did not get my workout in. So I probably am rambling. Anyways, my podcast will ramble a little bit. 5 accesses possible. Lockbox on the door. That's the most efficient. Providing a key to the home at the office. It's less efficient, but it does have its purposes. Open access with a phone call. That's them calling you directly. I don't know why you would use that one. I see it used a lot with your discount brokers that are not really representing you. They're basically just throwing your house in the MLS for you. And those can get dangerous. We'll do a different episode about that. By appointment only, 48 hours notice, 72 hours notice. You're starting to, I can see 24, especially if it's a tenant occupied property, but you're starting to get, again, not quite as comfortable for the buyers, which we want them to be comfortable. And finally, limited access. Hey, it's only going to be available Monday to 2 to 4. Those are like your 5 accesses. Obviously, your best access would be the most comfortable for the buyer. And making it comfortable for the buyer helps them. Oh, I don't know. Maybe want to buy your home that you're selling. All right, that's all I got for you today. As always, if you've not subscribed to get the tips, tricks, graphs, infographics that I put out on Friday, get over to 5minutesinrealestate.com. That's 5minutesinrealestate.com. Also, if you've not subscribed to the podcast, we're on Google Play and iTunes. Get over to your player of choice. Search us, hit like, hit subscribe, give us a thumbs up, give us a nice comment. I always enjoy those. And finally, if you found any value in this one, my little ramble this morning on making sure you grant access to people if you're trying to sell the home. you found any value in this one or any other episode that we do. I never ask for payment on these. I do, however, ask that you share it on social media. Thanks for listening. Have a great Tuesday. Where is my coffee?